Did you know most new real estate agents, they start with excitement and energy only to burn out within their first years? They struggle to know where to get started. They lack the resources. And sometimes even the worst is they have mentors or friends that say, hey, it's normal not to make any money in the beginning. Well, today I'm super excited to share a different story. My guest, Matthew Delcambre, he's an absolute standout. He's Rookie of the Year in Keaty Real Estate and quite possibly Rookie of the Year in the United States. He didn't just follow our path we laid out, he absolutely crushed it. He closed over 50 sides worth over $11.6 million in just the first 12 months. Let that sink in. We're talking 50 transactions and over $11.6 million in volume in the first 12 months of his career. In today's episode, we're going to uncover the key fundamentals that Matthew focuses on to skyrocket his career. Success in real estate isn't just possible, it's inevitable with the right team and the right mindset. I'm beyond excited to introduce Matthew Delcambre, our Rookie of the Year, and a true testament to what is possible at Keaty Real Estate. All right, guys, so welcome back to the show. Super pumped to have Mr. Matthew Delcambre, who it's been a privilege to be able to work with over the last 12 months, really. It's just been 12 months since you've joined our team, and you've been crushing it, man. What's really impressive is how you came in, you followed our process, and you've exceeded. Although you're hitting all the numbers almost dead on and the ratios, but you've exceeded all expectations that I've ever seen, not only for Keaty Real Estate, but I think maybe possibly the country. I just can't get all the data. I know nobody has ever performed the way you performed over the last 12 months. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. It's been just about a year. We just hit your year mark a couple of weeks ago. And really, man, just glad to have you. And I can't wait because those of you guys who are watching this, there's so much good information that I'm saving the best for last. So you're going to want to stick around for the whole show. So let's kick it off, Matt. Tell me a little bit about you, your background, your history, and how you ended up in Lafayette. And
I was born in Lafayette, and baseball's really my whole life growing up until honestly probably last year. High school, before that's literally all I did was play baseball. Dedicated everything to it.
Well, what got you into baseball? Like when you were a kid, you just always liked sports. Your dad always exposed you.
I never really liked any other sport. I liked to play a little bit of golf growing up, but baseball, I don't know, just fell in love with it. I played so much going into high school, and then started doing well in high school. Ended up getting a lot of offers to go play elsewhere in college. So ended up going playing college. I was in college for 6 years. I got redshirted my first year, so that's an extra year. And then COVID gave me an extra year as well.
Right.
So
you got to play all 6 years, or did they take off for COVID or what?
COVID was like, we played like 15 games, and then they like nixed us right in the middle of it. But I was at the University of New Orleans at the time. I was like 3 years in, and I was in college, and I think of myself as a decently smart person, and I wasn't learning anything at all in school, and it was so boring. So I actually went to like Books A Million or whatever, and I was just looking for something to read, like to make money.
Yeah.
Just because I was bored, and I knew college wasn't going to like steer me on the right path, but I wanted to play baseball, so that's why I was in college. So
Which you finished college?
Yeah, I finished college.
Yeah. What'd you graduate in?
I have a master's in basically property management. It's called PM, but because I wanted to manage my own properties.
Right.
I always wanted to buy real estate, but I picked up a book, and it was on like options trading. And I tried that, and I kept reading books on that. And eventually, somehow, one of the books started talking about real estate to avoid tax breaks. So I ended up reading probably like 50, 60 books just on real estate and investing while I was in college.
Wait, you said 50 or 60 books on investing in real estate?
Yeah. I wasn't doing any schoolwork. I mean, school's so easy. I graduated with like a 3.9, and like you don't have to do anything to get grades in school. So I was spending most of my time learning. about.
Well,
really
you're one of
real estate.
those. I actually had to study, so
I hated school. I was just there for baseball. That was the only reason I was there. And I knew I wanted to invest in real estate. I had no clue what I wanted to do as far as to make money, obviously to play baseball, but that didn't work out for me. But I ended up at Spring Hill College in Mobile to finish off my master's my last 2 years. And towards like the 6th year, I was 24 in college. And so I was like, well, I'm going to get a real estate license, literally just so when I'm working, I work my normal job, and when I have money saved up, I'll use my real estate license to buy my own property. So, yeah, I got my real estate license, and then I came here and ended up.
So you moved back from Mobile back to Lafayette because your parents live here.
Yeah, I was born here. I was going for 6 years, and I got back in like June of last year.
Yeah. And that's when we met. We actually you went through the interview process. I think it was early July.
Yeah.
And, and so how did you end up applying for Keaty Real Estate in the first place?
I interviewed at a couple brokerages, and I came here last, and I didn't know where I wanted to go really. And Ethan Broussard really sold me to come here, so I ended up coming here. I didn't know anything about sales. I never did anything in my life besides baseball, literally. And I told Ethan that. Ethan even told me that y'all almost didn't hire me because my interview was so bad. But someone really vouched for me. Who was it? Blonde-haired lady. Michelle Ezel.
Oh, Michelle Ezel.
Michelle Ezel was like the breaker, so she kind of got me in here, and I started, and I was here for probably like
So you started. You moved your license July 17th, 2023, and here, we have a whole onboarding process, so we don't even consider you part of the team until you finish the onboarding process. Mm-hmm. That typically takes a month or a month and a half. You finished it in less than a month, and we started you on our process and systems on August 7th, 2023, and that's when you start calling the leads. We give you access to everything, and then within right on time, if you follow the process, you had your first closing on September 19th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then from then on, you were stacking those closings every single month.
Yeah.
What was that like getting started?
Getting started was definitely that first probably 40 days was that hump. I remember I had came back from college, and I was living with my parents, and I had like $5,000 or $6,000 in debt on my credit cards, and my parents, they feed me, let me stay at home, all that good stuff, but they weren't giving me money or paying for anything, so I'm stressed out. So I went to talk to Ethan, our associate broker, and he's like, you probably get paid, in like 2 months or whatever. And, if you do really good, you'll make like $50,000, $60,000 this year. And I was pretty distraught for about a week. And I remember going home, just like I would come here and then I would go home, and my dad just kept like beating at me, like, what's the problem? What's the problem? He knew something was wrong. And I finally came out, he's old school, he worked in a gas station and, making no money and made his way in the oil field. But I told him what Ethan said, like if I work really hard, I'll make, $60,000. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to work too hard and that I'm too smart of a person to make that amount of money for, the time that I'm going to put in.
Yeah.
And, he was real upset with me, and I almost quit. I really, really almost quit and went look for something else to do. But I stuck it out for like 2 more weeks, and I got like 2 things under contract. I started adding the numbers up, and it was a lot of money. So I stuck it out for like another probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then I ended up getting like 4 or 5 things under contract.
Right.
And like adding that money up, I was like, I'm gonna make a lot more than $60,000 in a year. So then I ended up sticking with it, and definitely.
Well, you absolutely you made a whole lot more than that, but and just to clarify, the first 12 months, right? So we're right at the end of your first year right now as we are recording this, and the numbers, which I'm going to go over in a second, are out it's crazy. And the reason why is because, a new agent if you're getting into real estate, the first, like I said, the first month you're onboarding, so you're not even making phone calls here at K Real Estate. Then we get you onto the system and you start making calls. Well, even if you have an amazing first month, you're setting up appointments, but you still have to go out on those appointments. And typically it might take 2, 3, or 4 weeks to get a house under contract because you're showing or going to a listing. You got to prepare the listing. I mean, it takes sometimes a month for us to prepare a listing, even to get it on the market if the appointment goes well. So then once it goes under contract, you've got another 35, 45 days for the closing, which, if you add all of that up, your first year, you're really not having typically a closing for the first 3 to 4 months. And you were right at 3 months from the time you move your license. So, I mean, your first year, you're almost losing 4 months of the year, which is really, it's really important when you're looking at these numbers, because your next year, your second year into it, if you're doing everything right, you should have a much better year because you, in essence, got 4 more months or 3 more months to have more closings. And so typically, if you follow, and everybody's different. Some people come to here and they say they want to make, 60, 75,000, 100, 200,000, and we can give them the plan, and you can absolutely execute on it. But most people don't. So, what did your dad tell you that got you to not quit? Because quite frankly, most people get into it super pumped, super excited, and then they learn, oh, wait a second, I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know how to make phone calls or engage or prospect.
Yeah.
What happened with that change and clicked, just switch and like, okay, this is going?
I don't know. I mean, it was more or less like he thought that, that was a lot of money for somebody coming out of college and stuff like that. But I just had different dreams and goals. Yeah. I just know that I'm always going to work harder than, I don't care what anyone else is doing around me, but I know I'm working harder than you. I'm putting in the time. And like I said, I feel like I'm a pretty smart person to where I can create efficient paths to do things and, make them come to fruit faster. But he didn't it just kind of upset me. But no diss to my pops at all. He's the one who actually got you here. Every single last bit of animosity and determination and hard work. Every last bit of that has come from my father growing up, and just seeing how hard he worked. He, growing up, my dad's, he didn't have a lot of money when we first started growing up and stuff like that. And, he would work, he'd be up at 4 a.m. and he would work until 7, 8, 9 p.m. But if I had baseball practice that day at 5 p.m., he's taken off of his busy life, running a company that's losing money, that he's stressed out, and he's coaching me at my games, and he's at my games, and he was always there. And on the weekends, I want to play video games or watch TV, we're in the yard doing work. And during the week, he's working 12, 15, 16, 17 hours a day. And then, like I said, on the weekend, we're fixing stuff up at the house, doing yard work. So it was just watching my dad always constantly doing something to better not just his life, but his family's lives, me, my 3 sisters, and my mom. It's all he's ever done is take care of us and honestly lead by example. So that's honestly, that's where I got all of everything that I have about myself.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he had his priorities straight, and that's why you're sitting here now as the rookie of the year, not just for Keaty Real Estate. Definitely, I've never seen anything performed like this in Lafayette or Louisiana. If I could find more data, I would be willing to bet no one had closed this many transactions in the way that you're doing. Sure, volume and sales, some people might get into or might have a relationship with a builder, or they may have a family member that's buying investments or whatnot. But it's not like you got into this business and you had this huge sphere of influence. You literally came straight from college playing baseball to Lafayette, got your license, and you started calling the leads is really your main source of revenue is from just grinding it out.
Everyone, my dad's really successful, and everyone thinks that that's one of the reasons I sell a lot of stuff. But I closed 62 deals. I sold one to my dad, sold one to my friend Brandon, I sold one to my friend John. The other 59 deals were people that I did not know and never met.
Yeah.
Until I started at K Real Estate.
So you're teasing the numbers. So I got to tell you guys this numbers, and then we're going to dive deep. Today, I hope that we can add value to certain people watching this to not only know that, hey, look, this is possible and it's available, and all you got to do is go out and get it. But I also want to talk about how your day is structured. How are you able to accomplish all that, and what's working? But before I get into, so like we already talked about. When we do our business plan, when we first started, we typically are basing our business plan off of a 5-day work week. And, with holidays and weekends and, all of the possibly getting sick or whatever, we usually calculate, hey, if you're working 5 days a week and taking a couple of months off, that's going to be somewhere around, with holidays, 200 days out of the year. I know you worked way more than that. So, I'm going to say 240, which is conservative. You probably work more like 300 days when you look at like the weekends and stuff and you told us that when we first did our business plan. You said, well, I'm going to work a lot more than 200 days, 240 days. I'm going to work every day is what you said, actually. And I'm sure you're pretty close to that. But as the year went on, which has only been 12 months, you've actually been able to take off a little bit. And since then, not only have you bought multiple properties for investment in 1 year, I mean, you went from, like you said, like coming back from college, credit card debt, living at your parents, to how many doors have you bought?
I have 6 now. Yeah. So.
Six different properties that you've bought either by yourself or with investors that you're working with that, you've done such a good job with them. They trust you, and they've actually, you've done deals together with them. So that's incredible to go, not only to go from zero to the number one rookie in quite possibly the country, but also at the same time you bought some doors and you had time to get engaged. So
yeah.
that it was, as your teammate, and be able to watch this process and watch you do this. And I know you cherish your golf days with your dad. And so
my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
So you still got to do some of the things that you like, but you just worked longer and harder. And, when I would get here, and I get to work around 7:45, 7:30, typically you were here, especially for the first 8 months, and then you were always the last person to leave because you were making calls at night, which makes sense because that's when people like to answer the phone.
Absolutely.
But check out these numbers, guys. So, and this is really the first numbers I'm going to go over. Yeah, I mean you've sold in the first 12 months 62 properties, or you were part of 62 sides in the first 12 months, and that's over $14 million in volume. And this is individual sales. This isn't like, you're working with investors and buying tons of different properties. I mean, this is every single one of these transactions, for the most part, are people you've never met besides the ones that you mentioned earlier. You're ranked number 11th in the entire MLS as far as sides in the first 12 months. But part of those transactions, like you'll have my name in there and some other guys' names, because they may have a builder and they've got lots and lots of listings and lots of opportunities. So, yeah, and then you were 15th in the MLS for volume. And you also have to remember, in the MLS is also the for sale by owners and the unrepresented sellers, which is everything that was listed and sold that didn't have an agent on one of those sides. So pretty impressive. I would argue that as far as the number of transactions and the volume, if you really looked into and you excluded teams and you excluded new construction, I would say that you're very close to the top, if not at the top, at number one. And so that's insane, but it doesn't surprise me these numbers aren't by accident. And that's what I like to always look at. Like, if you are out there and you're selling and you're not hitting the numbers or you're not closing the deals, guess what? That's not by accident. Just like Matthew's closing the 62 transactions is no accident, because it's all about the lead indicators, right? So what you focused on is, and this is awesome, guys. So 37,786 dials. That's how many phone calls you made. And if I did put a date on that, 240 days a year, you're looking at 157 conversations or dials per day, right? So in order to get 20 conversations a day, you're dialing about 157. Does that sound right? This is all from your tracking.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say probably closer to like 100, because you did put me working 240 days. I was probably closer to like 340 for the first year. So that's probably like 100 and some change.
Yeah. So like if you worked more, the number of calls you have to make per day goes down.
Yeah. Obviously.
Right. So but if those of you guys out there want to, worked out of 240 days and you want to take the rest of the year off, you're looking at about 20 conversations a day. And that's really the most important part. And we're going to get back to how you did this, but out of those 20 conversations a day, you set 362 appointments. And out of those 362, 100 of those were listing appointments and 262 were buyer appointments. So, and out of those 362 appointments that you set, 218 actually were held. So that's a 60% appointment to held ratio, which is exactly within the limits of what we predicted, before you even got started. And from currently the listings the appointments that you've actually been on, you're right about 30% appointment to close ratio. And Matthew and I were talking about this earlier. That ratio will go up because, and as you know, right now, as you move forward into the year, all those appointments that you set, some of them do come back. And a lot of the conversations you've already had, it gets easier and easier. And the hard part is just deciding how much you want to work and how much you want to hit, right? Mm-hmm. So let's break these numbers down. First of all, for most people, the concept of dialing 157 people a day or 100 people a day is just hard to understand. So how do you do that? What's your secret to dialing 100 people a day?
It's not really 100 people a day. It's more like every couple days or so. Like some days I'm super busy. Like today I was super busy, like all morning. I was slammed. I didn't make any cold calls, obviously. And then I'm here doing the podcast. So like today, let's say after this, I might call like 50, 60 people. And then like tomorrow, if I'm super busy, like say I have like 5 or 6 showings, inspection, whatever. And then the following day, I'm going to call like 350 people. Like if I don't have something,
right,
I'm calling people. So
yeah. If you're not on an appointment, you're on the phone.
If I'm free, I'm cold calling people.
Yeah.
Like if I don't have
and you're saying cold call, but these are people who've come to our website and given us their number. Yeah. But it's cold call because you don't know.
It's a cold call, somebody I never met before, but it's a lead that came in off of Zillow or Google or whatever. They everyone says they don't want to buy, but a lot of them
there's always objections. Yeah. So we'll get to the objections because I think that's important too. But and I know at first you had said that like it's discouraging when you first get here and you're making the calls because we make you guys do 1,000 calls a week for the first 90 days, and it's like, how do you do that? Well, we're using the tools and we're using a dialer and we're efficient and we're able to actually make those calls. And then it just becomes, it doesn't matter the number of calls. What matters is how many people pick up. And so out of every person that picked up the phone, you are actually setting, you set 362 appointments. And of course, not everybody setting the appointments is going to actually be able to show up.
Yeah, a lot of them are pre-approved or they just no-show.
Right. So once you know these matrix, I saw it in your eyes. It kind of clicked, and you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, all I got to do is just engage more, talk to more people. I set more appointments, and I get more money, right?" So, but let's break down because it's different today than it was when you first started. So, explain to us your process of, how'd your day look when you first started versus, and then we'll get to now.
Well, when I first started, I'd wake up at let's say 4:45 and I'll go to Reds because at the time I'm working from home now, but at the time obviously I would come into the office. We'd go to Reds, work out, shower, probably be done around anywhere from 6:15 to 7, depending on what I did. And then obviously I'm not working out anymore because I'm fat, but.
Well, you shattered that stat too. Typically, people who join Keaty Real Estate gain 30 pounds. You gained 50 pounds.
That's
in a
terrible.
Year, so
that's
really
the worst stat that I could possibly break there.
You beat it by a lot, so congratulations.
That's not a congratulations, but anyway.
That's okay. You're always the biggest loser in January.
Got lazy. But yeah, so I would go work out. I'd get here, anywhere from 6 to 7, and I'll kind of start piddling away at kind of setting up my day. And then I would, if I had let's say a showing at 9 and an inspection at noon and then a showing at 3, I'm calling people from the time I get to the office. I'm going to that showing. When I get back, if they want to make an offer, depending on whatever, write an offer up, blah blah blah. I got a free hour. I'm cold calling people, and then go to my inspection, come back, write up our inspection response with my buyer on the phone. Back to cold calling, and I would do that, and I would I worked at least until 9 to 11 p.m. every night, and then on again, 7 days a week.
Before you started working at home, which is not long ago, you definitely all last year into this year, you were leaving the office somewhere around 9 or 10, sometimes 11. But that time you were literally calling people. So that can blow people's mind. How do you, I've heard not to call past 7 o'clock or once it gets dark. What's your philosophy on that?
If I try not to schedule anything after 5:30. Once 5:30 hits, I try to cold call until 8:30, 8:45. And then once it got to 9, when I was cold calling, every time I talk to somebody, I'm setting up to-dos on those person, making notes on them so that I can get in touch with them tomorrow or next week or whatever their timeline is. And then once 9 would hit, it's a little bit too late to call people. So at that point, that's when I would kind of start taking all the notes that I had written down, and I would start setting everybody up for the next day or the next week. And then from I would get on the tax assessor site. And the entire Fox Run, View Orleans, any multifamily owner that owns a multifamily in Lafayette, I have back searched them and their business, and I've gotten their phone number and I've called them. And
you're calling them because you have people that you've talked to that want to
buy it. So, and even if I don't have somebody that wants to buy it, I always tell them, I have a buyer. Do you want to sell? If they want to sell, which is 1 out of 10. But the other flip side of that is 90% of them will say, no, I don't want to sell, but I'm always looking to buy. So then when I do find that one person that wants to sell, I send it to all those people that want to buy, and then it's usually sold in a day or two. So
I always liked it. The example of that little kid's game where you flip over the cards and you got an elephant over here, monkey over here, then you flip over the elephant, you got another elephant, and you put them together. That's kind of how I always felt it can be, especially when you have all of these leads. But you can't do that sporadically. You have to be consistent, and you have to take the notes, and you have to track it, right?
It has to be, I call it extremely organized chaos. So it's absolute chaos, but organized to a T. So this game, if you're going to make a lot of money, you have to be open to, enjoy, and love the chaos, and be able to organize it because it's chaotic. I get honestly every single day, 7 days a week, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at least 200 to 500 between text, emails, and phone calls every day, and it's chaotic. And 70% of the time, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to problem solve and fix stuff and make people happy, keep them happy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the game.
And have the structure to maintain that, right? So, like, first of all, you've got to have a process and a system. And, you know, almost every brokerage has some type of system, but 90% of the people just don't use it. But if you follow that process and you follow that system, you know who you need to call tomorrow or who you need to follow up with. If you're calling 100 people a day and talking to 20 people a day, you're never going to, after a week, you're never going to know who you need to call back.
If you do not follow up, you will not close deals.
100%.
End of story. Like,
Follow up is king.
I will
The
follow
money
up.
is in the follow up.
I will aggravate people. You will either buy a house from me or block me. I've had people, like, you can literally go through my phone that I've closed, and I have texted them and emailed them 40 times without them answering. And then it happened today. A lady I had been, texting and emailing houses and stuff like that. She answered the phone call one time the first time I called her.
Right.
Told me she was kind of interested. I probably emailed and texted her 25 times.
Yeah.
And never responded to me, but I would follow up with her every week. Do you need anything? Do you see anything? She called me today, and she wants to go see a house tomorrow. And it's just following up. If I don't follow up with that lady, she's not calling me. I'm not the one bringing her in that house. I'm not the one getting that deal. But especially older people, they really, really appreciate you keeping tabs on them and following up with them, and they love that. I mean, a lot of my business comes from, there's so many agents in Acadiana. A lot of my business comes from people that already have agents, but they don't like them. They don't take care of their needs.
And when they say they don't like them, what I've noticed is
they're lazy.
It's just they're not following up, and
they're lazy.
Which it's a weird dynamic, right? Because most people think you're bothering them, but that's actually what they want. That's what they think good service is staying in front of them.
Every now and then you get somebody that'll curse you out, but it's all fun.
Right, which, I want to talk about, because when you're, if you're talking to 20 people a day, I know that most of those people say no. I mean,
everybody says that.
Yeah, I mean, if you spoke to, because you spoke to this year so far, well, not year to date, but for the last 12 months, 4,577 people, and that's a 12% spoke to rate. So meaning out of every 100 people that you're calling, that you're actually dialing through our system, 12% of them are answering the phone. And out of those 12%, you set 362 appointments. So I know to get 362 appointments, there's even way more people who aren't ready, aren't interested, 25% of them, you couldn't pay them to work for. Like, you couldn't pay them to work with you because they got a family member, they got...
and they will fire them in a heartbeat, because once you show them your value and they realize what the other people are bringing to the table, they don't want to work. I mean, real estate it's such... You can lose as a buyer or seller so much money dealing with these real estate agents that do not know what they're looking at. Personally, I'm obsessed with numbers. I invest, whether you're residential or an investor or commercial, like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to have the numbers set up for you to where, like, you understand, like, it's a good purchase. Obviously I'm in it to get paid. I want to make money. That's what I'm here for. But if I don't think you should buy something, residential, investment, I don't care. I will literally tell you, do not buy. I've literally told clients, like, I'm not writing a contract on this, because, like, it's a terrible purchase.
Find another agent, because
I will not write a contract on this. And then those people, you end up finding them something, and then they love it, and it's right, and the numbers work, and then they love you, and then all of a sudden their mom and their sister and their friends calling you because you took care of them. You didn't let them buy something they shouldn't buy for a quick check. And this is like a big part of it for me, is like, I will never let somebody purchase something that I do not think they should purchase for a check. maybe it's because I'm in the position that I'm in. But
it's about creating value and making sure that you're doing the right thing, which is,
real estate agents do
it's
that.
exciting. Well, not everybody has this many appointments. So when you have 362 appointments that you've set, you don't need to go on all of them. And guess what? Like, you don't need to work with everybody.
Absolutely not.
Like when obviously you haven't. You've actually held 218 appointments in 12 months. You're not required to work with them, and they're not required to work with you. It only works as, like when you provide your value. And you're saying, one of your value propositions is really diving deep in the property, whether it's residential or an investment, as an investment, and showing them what the numbers are. And, sometimes, those numbers just don't work out and don't make sense.
Exactly. And I'm very, very number oriented. So
also, if we also guarantee satisfaction. So if they don't like it in a year, we got to sell it
for free.
And we don't want to do that.
But yeah, I'm very, very number oriented. So like everything I look at is number wise, because like I'm obsessed with investing. I always have been. So like even if someone's buying a residential, like the numbers have to be right, or like I'll tell you what I think about it, whether it's negative or positive. And it just brings a lot of trust into clients. And what I've noticed from that is, instead of taking the quick check, which I could have many times, I could have made a lot more money than I have.
Well, and I know we've walked away from some clients too.
Just doing the right thing is honestly what brings in the clients. And like, as far as investors, like most investors don't trust us because, one, agents are stupid. Most agents are very, very uneducated on the process, and like they don't even own any real estate, or they might own one house and they're trying to tell investors to buy stuff. Like, I will tell you not to buy something or to buy something. And so like it gets to the point to where, like, I mean, I could pick my phone up and call one of my guys and say, hey, you need to buy this property, and they won't even ask the numbers on it. They'll say how much, and they'll put an offer in like that day.
Right, because they trust you.
Yeah, that literally happened this morning. I mean,
yeah, we've had conversations about that too, and it's like, once you've proven your value and we know that, hey, you've looked at it, and it doesn't mean you're not going to do due diligence once you go under contract, but it's at least worth you taking action.
Once
right?
they trust you and know that you're like, I don't know, I have an obsession for this, and like, especially for investors, that's like my keen thing. I love dealing with people, especially first-time investors, but like, once they see my passion for it and how obsessed I am with it, I mean, like I said, I can pick my phone up, and like, if there's a good deal, I'll have an offer for it.
Well, going back to, like, we know that, out to get to 218 appointments and having over, 4,600 conversations, Matt, like, what keeps you going? Because most people don't do the follow-up, or they do it for a week and then they stop. And like, tell us the secret to your success when it comes to being determined and holding yourself accountable to actually get that done.
I don't know. Everything I've ever done, I want to be the best, and I want to be the best. I want people to, in no disrespectful way, but like, I want people to come into Keaty like I did, and I want them to look at who the best is. I want them to think in their mind and have the idea that I want to be number one because everybody wants to be number one. And then I want them to come in, and I want them to look at the numbers, and then after they look at my stuff, I want them to say, okay, I'm okay with being number two. And,
right.
and that's one of the things, like, just with baseball, I always wanted that, and with anything I've ever done, I've always wanted that. But like, the thing is, like, you only understand baseball unless you played it, but the game never loves you back. Even the best players in the world, it doesn't matter. The game doesn't love you back, whether you're a pitcher or a hitter. If you're the best hitter in the world and you hit 320, okay, so you're failing 680% out of 1,000. So 68% of the time you're failing, and you're the best in the world hitting three. You're failing constantly. So it's like,
right, you just keep getting up, getting to the bat. Which I love that analogy. Coach Robichaux had done one of our quarterly meetings, and I didn't realize that because I don't play baseball,
It's
but
constant failure. That's all the game
you
is.
fail more than you succeed. But
Yep.
if you don't get up to bat, you never you can't hit.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, people are scared of objection, and like, there's no such thing as an objection. It's just you're just having a conversation with somebody,
Yeah.
trying to get them in a better place. Like, a lot of them is how much are you paying in rent? Do you want to purchase a house? Absolutely not. Okay, where are you living right now? I'm paying rent. I'm renting this place in in Freetown. All right, how much are you paying? I'm paying $1,700 a month. Okay. Do you want to own a house? So you're paying $1,700 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, nice little spot in Freetown, Lafayette. You can own a house, put $7,000 down, and now you own a $230,000 house, and it costs you $1,400 a month. So
Yeah.
which one are you going to do?
And you're building wealth and equity, and
you're getting tax breaks. You're building equity, and you're putting money towards something instead of
paying somebody else's
paying.
mortgage.
So I'll rent stuff out, and I'll literally tell people, why are you renting? You want to rent something, rent my stuff. But at the end of the day, you are wasting money if you rent. You buy one house for $250,000 and live in it for 10 years. You can sell it for $300 in 10 years, and you cash your equity out, and you got $120,000. You rent for 10 years, you have nothing.
That's right.
So,
well, I think what you said is profound, because most people just don't fail enough, right?
yeah.
Because one of the cool things is some of our numbers, which I don't have it here, but like we can literally calculate how much money you make on every call that doesn't end up to the appointment. Mm-hmm. So I think I don't know how much yours is. You see it when we give you your report card, but I think it's probably like $60, $90 for every $90 for every no that you get. You're actually making money because you're getting one step closer to that appointment, right? So one of the things I've noticed is that trait in you, I think, is one of the things that I rarely see. We've hired, I think we looked at it the other day, like actually this next week's our 20-year in business, and I think we've hired over 300, almost 400 agents that have, come and gone, and we've only ended up with 70 because most people
they
quit, and they don't. They want this, but they're only willing to do this, and it goes back to you get the results that you're actually putting in.
Yeah, it's this game is like in baseball, and it prepared me so much. Just like the constant, I love the game so much. So like failing at that was so devastating, and so like when I get here, for example, like 2 days ago,
failing at baseball,
it's so devastating because of how much I love the game.
You mean losing a game or just
losing a game? I'm a pitcher, and I closed, so I would pitch at the end of the game. So everything's on you. It's a game. It's 2-1, 3-1. You're winning, and you come to the ninth inning, and you either win or you lose the game for your team as the pitcher.
Yeah,
like you're putting the pitches out there, and so like I said, you either win or lose the game. So it's so devastating, and I've had. I played baseball my whole life. I'm 26 now. I played baseball for 20 years. So many failures. So like most of the people that are in real estate, the amount of how devastating it is to lose a deal to me is like jokingly, it's just part of the game. Like you're going to fail, you're going to lose deals from whether it's financing, the buyer freaks out,
insurance,
something happens. There's always something that happens. You're going to lose deals if you're in this game. So it's like, for example, today's Thursday. Monday, I lost 2 deals. Morning I lost one, and then the afternoon I lost one. And I don't know, the way I look at it is like most people, at least from what I've heard from my colleagues, is like if you lose a deal, much less 2 in one day, like they're done for like a week. They're not doing anything. I mean, I lost those 2 deals on Tuesday, and then this morning I got 3 under contract and sent out 2 offers.
Yeah.
Because like instead of sleeping in and
the antidote or the solution to losing a deal is more appointments.
Yeah, you just keep pumping it.
Right.
It's like you're going to lose deals. People are going to have messed up financing. Buyers are going to freak out, and you can calm it in some situations, but sometimes there is absolutely nothing you can do, and you are going to consistently and constantly lose deals. So like, instead of losing a deal and going out commission for a week, and now you just lost another one because you didn't work, you lose a deal, like, get mad about it and go get another one.
Yeah, it creates urgency for you versus discouraging you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at first it discouraged me. I mean, I don't even care anymore. Like,
I mean, you care about the customer, you care about the client and everything else, but you're okay with losing that deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's money coming in, you know, that you need or don't need, whatever. But like I said, I literally, like, I lost two on Tuesday, and I literally, like, I'm to the point where, like, I don't care anymore. It's just part of the job, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I have a stat here. Yeah, so out of the 62 transactions that you close in the last 12 months, the first 12 months of your career after our onboarding, you actually had 30 cancellations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're going through 30, see, the problem is most agents, like, you lost more transactions that failed than most agents do in 2 or 3 years. So it's like failing forward, right? It goes back to your analogy of the baseball.
Just going right back at it.
But, going back to that same mindset, like, it's a mindset, and what I've noticed that's extraordinary and unique to you is you don't mind making the phone calls. You've told me you enjoy making phone calls, which is unusual.
Yeah, you're not gonna hurt my feelings, and, like, I don't really like talking to people, to be honest, but, like, I don't know, there's just something about.
And you're not very good on the phone.
I don't follow.
It's not like he's like this incredible, like, salesy person. I mean, it's really like, hey, like, I don't understand your situation. Tell me a little bit about it. Here's how we can fix it, right?
I'm not a salesman. I'm just, like, I'm so obsessed with the game that, like, I know what the numbers look like. I'm not a loan officer. I know how all the loans work. I know what you qualify. I know every little
grant
detail
programs,
about that. I can have a 2-minute conversation on the phone with you and tell you, this is what we're looking at, and you can say yes or no. And then, like, most people, like, there's opportunities that they don't get or they don't understand that you bring to value for them. And I can't tell you how many clients that I've had that they're already working with an agent, or their friend's an agent, they've been looking, or this, that, or you tell them a different route and that they've never heard before.
Yeah.
And then, like, that, they're done working with that person, and they come to you because they know you're going to take care of them. Because I do it myself. Like, I'm an investor. Like, I'm not just buying anything. I want the best numbers, the best deal. Like, everything needs to be perfect. So, like, if I'm obsessing over that, when you go to buy a normal residential house, I already have all that, that I'm doing. So I'm able to, like, find those types of things for you and be able to help you out.
Not only that, I mean, the reason not only is your value proposition, and I want to be clear about this, because your value proposition is, what you bring to the table is understanding the numbers, but it also goes back to engagement, because the more people you engage, like you said earlier, the more likely you are to find a deal that's about to come up, which you're able to get before somebody else, right?
Yeah, you just have to constantly let people know that.
Proactive. The difference between being proactively prospecting and not prospecting is a big difference, and that's a lot of value, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm very annoying. Like, if I meet you anywheres and we have a conversation, like, you are going to know that I am an investor and I'm in real estate, and most people that have money invest, and most people that make good money that don't invest want to invest. So, like, the second they hear that, okay, this guy's an investor, he's a realtor, he has deals coming up, they want, I don't even have to give people my card. They're asking me for my contact information, put it on their phone. I mean, one of the examples is I love to play Texas Hold'em. I have since I was, like, 7 years old. I've been playing with cards. You can look me up on YouTube, Matt31 Cards. I got messing with cards and stuff when I was, like, 8 years old. But I found this little joint. We played Texas Hold'em. Started playing there probably, like, 8 or 9 months ago. I've closed 5 deals from meeting people playing at a poker table. And one of my best investment partners, shout out to Glenn Moores, I bought a property with him. We're under contract to buy another one. Like, I met that dude playing poker. He's in the oil field. He's got like 30 doors. I have a little Keaty sticker on my phone. He says, "Oh, you work for Keaty?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "Oh, I'm an investor. I got 30 doors." I get his phone number. I aggravate him every day for about 10 days. And then all of a sudden we're buying a property together.
Yeah.
And
that's the difference is somebody who's not prospecting isn't taking advantage of those opportunities, because it could be poker, it could be Texas Hold'em, or it could be at the soccer field with your kids, or it could be a Mardi Gras ball, or Reds is a great
everybody. 80% of people don't invest, but are interested.
Let's talk about that, because I think that's really important. I know we have a process and a system that. And a CRM system, which is what helps you stay on top of everything,
Good
right?
old Boomtown.
So tell me about that. Like, when you meet somebody, or you run into somebody, whether it's at Reds or at the poker table, what's the next step? You said you aggravate them, but you actually have a process to the chaos.
As far as going back to college again, I was obsessed with reading real estate books. I was also very intrigued with like human psychology and like the way people say things and their emotions when they talk, and I had an obsession with real estate and reading people. And I don't know, it depends on the situation, right? Like when you walk into a house to show a house, it's very easy, at least for me, to understand like when it's time to close them and when it's not, and like what they're looking for. As far as like, what was the question? Providing value?
Well, no, it's about like your process and system. Okay, so you run into somebody, they learn that you're in real estate, you make a connection. Most people, that's where it ends, right? So what's the process? You said you aggravate them.
Okay, yeah.
Like, but what's that? How do you stay on top of that? Because you're talking to 20 other people a day. How do you stay on top of that frequency on the conversation?
It depends on how, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It depends on how.
How the conversation went with you.
Well, yeah, conversation, but like
their motivation.
Your motivation. That's a good word. So, like, for example, Glenn Moores. Okay, that's a guy I invest with. I met him playing poker, and he saw a sticker that I had on my phone where I worked at Keaty Real Estate. He asked me if I worked there. Me and him kind of started chit-chatting. Well, before I know it, he tells me he owns 30 doors. He loves to invest. He's in the oil field. So I get his number. Always get their number.
So you don't just give them a card and hope that they call you?
No, I always get the number.
Get their phone number, get their contact.
Every time, bingo. And I put pull the contact thing out on my phone, put Glenn Moore's, and say, "Give me your number." And I aggravate him for probably like 2 or 3 weeks. I know this guy owns 30 doors. I know he's looking to invest. So I'm sending him investments every single day. I'm finding something constantly.
Yeah.
So like,
hey, this may not be what you're looking for, but it's an investment.
Yeah. So
there it is.
When he finds something that he likes, who do you think he's calling? Right. When I send him this stuff, this is the numbers, this is the cap rate, this is the ROI, this is what it looks like. No other realtors they might just be sending him shit. He fired his realtors, all of his buddies. There's a group of like 6 of them. They all fired their realtor, and I'm their guy now because
you're providing values with the numbers. You got the ROI calculator.
I'm not just sending them stuff, and when I send them something,
you're not putting them in the MLS and just calling it a day, hoping that they'll call you when they see the right property.
They're not just getting stuff. When they get something from Matthew, it's something of value, and they look into it, and they already have the numbers. They don't have to ask me for that. They have everything they need, and it's, hey, yes, I want to put an offer in, or no, this isn't for me.
But to have 362 appointments set, you probably at like literally, if I was to look in your database, you've got to have, I'm just going to take a stab at it, you got to have like 600 people that are in nurture or watch that you're watching. Like, how do you, and them being one of them, is that about right?
Yeah, it's probably like 900.
900 people. So I think it's important because you're not there's no way any human can stay on top of calling that particular investor to send them something. So what are you doing to stay on top of it?
Like I said before, it's absolute chaos, but I am extremely organized. I have over 2,000 people on my platform. You can go right now and click any one of them, and I'll tell you something about them. I'll tell you what they're looking for.
Yeah.
When I talk to
So
them.
you're taking notes, you're tracking,
Everything.
you're setting a follow-up when it
Yep.
needs to happen.
Every single one.
So you're living by your CRM.
And my CRM is my business.
Yeah, that is your business.
Boomtown CRM is every single thing, like to call, to follow up, what you're looking for, every single thing is on that.
Okay, that brings me to what we're going to be talking about next. So, okay, when you first started and when you get into the business, we basically give you the scripts, we give you the access, and we tell you call these 1,000 leads, and you're going to do that for 90 days every single week. But now you just said, you went from 0 people, like except for your family and friends and stuff, which you're right out of college, so it's not like all your college buddies are buying properties. So
Yeah. I also went to college in a different state. So.
yeah, so it's not like you have this huge sphere to tap into, but you went from 0 to now you have 2,000 people in your database. Granted, some of those people come from poker tables, Reds, things like that, but majority of the calls are coming from people just on the Keaty Real Estate website that you then grab and then put them into your system because you've made in some type of conversation with, right? So I guess the question is you're organized, but you've got to be extremely disciplined to stay on top of that many people.
Yeah. It's absolute. It's constant. I mean, I work 7 days a week.
Yeah. And
Anywhere from 6 to 20 hours a day. Just depends on the day and what I got going on. So.
And we focus on and what's interesting is, okay, so you start, right, and we give you all these people, and you call them cold calls, and that's fine, people do, but they're people who've come to a real estate website, given us their information, and they all say, I'm just looking, or I'm not interested,
Nobody's ever interested.
It wasn't me.
Nobody.
Like, okay, well, I got your email, your phone number, and your name, and you're on a real estate website. I see you were on there 15 minutes ago. What's up? Like, so like at any given point, you could look on our system and you could literally see people on our site right now looking at real estate. But in an hour, they may not remember they were on Keaty Real Estate because they're probably looking on their phone or whatnot. But my point, I have a point to this I want to get to. The business changes from calling all of these people, and the reason we front load it, so you got to call this amount of people up front, is to build that rapport and everything. But now, as you go on, your conversations to appointment ratio goes way up compared to where it was. So now, eventually, you're failing a lot faster than most people. What I mean, because you're making more calls. Yeah. And so when you do it that way, you're condensing 10 years into
a good way to look
12
at it
months.
I mean, I had to speak to 467 people, right?
Yeah.
To close 62 deals.
Yep.
So.
No, 4,000.
Oh yeah, 4,000. So how much the failure percentage there is? You're failing 90 plus percent of the time.
Well, 25% of those 4,000 would never use us anyway. They hang up on us. There's no way they're using us. Their mom or sister or brother is a real estate agent, and they're just on our site. Yep. Then there's another 25% of people who
can't get pre-approved.
They're not going to get pre-approved. They're open to working with you, but they're not buying.
Yeah,
and then you have the remainder. You have of the people that you're talking to. So of the 4,500, you got approximately 2,000 of those people that may be buying in the next 2-3 years, and then out of that, you only got about 63 people that are going to buy in the next 30 days. But every single day that you continue to make and conversate with 20 people, those people that you talked to last September are now closer to buying now.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm still touching them.
You're still touching them, and that's what's important is that follow-up. We said the money's in the follow-up.
Yep.
And you've got currently 9 things under contract this year. So like if we look at your year to date, so far this year, when we're shooting this, it's, the 1st of September. You've got 50 transactions from January to now that you've had, $11 million worth of real estate, and you now have 9 things pending as of today with another 2,500. So obviously your conversations to appointments, it's taking a lot less because some of these people are now calling you.
Oh, yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And you already have the conversation. You don't have to build that rapport with, your investors and have that conversation to prove your worth. You've already proved it. So now it's just about following up. So my point is out of all these people that we've actually, you've touched that you didn't know, a lot of these people now because you're having an intimate conversation and you're following up with them. So now when they think about buying or selling,
it's me. They're calling
it's
me.
Because you're building a moat around your clients.
Matthew Delcambre Realtor is in their phone every week after week after week. When they see something or they're thinking about moving or selling or whatever it is, who do they call? They don't know a realtor.
Yeah.
They are calling the person that's aggravating them.
Right.
Hey.
And so, and you have obviously for the audience, we've broken it down into categories to where and how the frequency of conversations that you're going to be following up. I mean, you're not following up with people daily that have said, I can't buy anything. But those people that say, I want to buy, my credit is bad, you might be able to hook them up with somebody and then follow up with them in 6 months. Or
help them fix their credit, and then we close the deal.
But if you don't follow up in 6 months, they're going to be their credit's going to be better, and they're going to be looking online, and then somebody at our office.
And it's not even 6 months. I'm sending you houses 2-3 times a month, and I'm sending you a text 2-3 times a month. Hey man, how's the credit going? How's the credit going? And guess what? When that person's credit gets to where it needs to be, there's no doubt in their mind who they're calling.
And what's awesome about those people is because you're helping them with the dream of home ownership that they never thought they could have, but they will start referring all their friends.
You, and they are so loyal, and their friends, mom, dad, brother, sister, buddy, they're all calling you.
But if you don't follow up, none of that happens.
Then someone else is going to close it.
That's it.
So everybody wants to buy a house, but.
So what is the frequency of following up on? Like, do you have a rule of thumb?
It just depends.
Depends on the conversation, the last conversation you had with that person.
How responsive the person is. Most of the time, nobody wants to talk to you on the phone. So most of my phone calls are 1 minute, and we're out. They don't want to talk to you, and they're not using you, and they're not buying a house in their head. Okay, so no, I'm not buying. Okay, but what area are you looking at? I like Lafayette and Maurice. Okay, yeah. What are you looking for? Like a 3-4 bedroom? Yeah, 3 bedroom. I gotta go. Okay, yeah, but 15, 16, 1700 a month. Yeah, like 15, 1600 a month. Okay, all right. Well, have a good day. And that's it. I hang up the phone. And then they're getting an email from me, and then 2 days later, they're going to get a text. Hey, you saw what I emailed you? You see those houses? And on and on and on and on. And then all of a sudden, when that house pops up and they see it, I've been popping up on their phone for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They're calling me and texting me, hey, can I go see this house? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier than people make it, but following up is, cold calling is literally just, hey, are they somewhat interested in kind of looking at a house? Because nobody wants to buy a house when you talk to them, especially from you. But it's the follow up. That's
well,
everything.
And it's interesting that they don't know a lot of times. It's just like when I go to a store. Like I talk about this all the time. I went to Banana Republic. I used to have Banana Republic jeans. I go in there. I need some jeans. The lady says, how can I help you? And I was like, what did I say? I'm just looking. I'm actually looking for freaking jeans. I'm in a clothing store, which I never go to, and I need some jeans. And I tell the salesperson, I don't need anything. Now, 2 things happen is, one, One is that salesperson can say, okay, great, I'm here if you need me. I'll be at the front. Just ask me any questions. Or they can do like what we do. Well, what are you just looking for? Have you seen the new jeans that we got in the back? We've got some new clothes. It would look great on you. Why don't you come check this out? Follow me over here. And it's funny because
everybody's terrified of objection, being denied.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's where baseball kind of prepared me. It's like I'm so used to rejection and failure that like if I lose a deal or someone tells me to F off or this, I don't care. It's like it's fun to me at this point. So
I mean, it's through failure where you have the success, right?
Yeah. There's no such thing as failure. It's either succeed or learn a lesson and move on.
So what do you tell new agents, especially here at Keaty, who are in that first 90 days that, you know, they the first week they get here, they get through onboarding and now they're on the phones and they have one good week, but now they're getting discouraged. What would you tell them?
One, don't get discouraged, but like, do not surround yourself with people that are lazy and do not make money. So like, there's 2,000 agents in Acadiana and 1,800 of them make $50,000 a year. If you're gonna go surround yourself and be buddy and friends,
that's way better than what really happens. I mean, there's
over
600 of them didn't sell a transaction.
Exactly. They close 4 houses a year. If you're going to go surround yourself and be friends with people that are doing that, that's exactly what you're going to be doing. So like, do your own thing or figure out people that are where you want to be or how you want to do it. And then like take their knowledge, like steal their wisdom and grow from that instead of like one of my big things is like Tyler Albrecht. Like, my first day here, I went to Ethan, who's the associate broker. I said, like, you know, who's the best agent here? Tyler Albrecht. Tyler Albrecht's our guy. He's an investor. I went set up shop in my desk right next to Tyler Albrecht, and I bothered him and I aggravated him every single day and just tried to like steal all of his wisdom. And he's just a good dude, and he kind of showed me how he did everything, showed me the money he made. Investing side, Airbnb, showed me how he did it, coached me. Like, he boosted me so far into the future, being able to like pick his brain and him being like such a good person and like open to showing me how he did it and what he did. And it just like, those are the people that you need around you. You don't need people that are closing one deal a month around you. You need like your Tyler Albrechts who own 25 properties and 8 Airbnbs and close 3, 4, 5, 6 deals a month. I want it to be around him, not, you know, the people that are doing it, you know, gossiping and partying and all that stuff. And it's all fun and stuff. But like at the end of the day, like most of my time when I first started, if I was at the office, I was either by myself in my area or I was next to a very successful person, Tyler Albrecht. And so.
Well, it's interesting. You said, Tyler, and then I'm sure there's others like your dad and everybody who've gotten you, fast forwarded you to the future. What's interesting is that you said that. I mean, it's a shortcut. You know, it's cheating.
It's cheating. It's such a shortcut.
And what's interesting is people get so discouraged and quit so early. Like and it's natural. Like you literally almost quit. You know, and I would say you have more determination. Thank God your dad slapped you and got you back in line. But I think about this a lot, you know, because I'm wondering, like, I really feel for some agents who, you know, maybe just don't have the right directions or the tools or anything else. Like, you know, we're lucky and grateful that you came to Keaty, because I could imagine if you were at another company that maybe, and there's other people that have processes like us, but if you didn't have the 37,000 people to call, like, you know, you might have given up.
I would be,
you know?
I'd be in another industry. Like this is where I want to be. This is where I need to be. And like, especially you, Mr. Jim, like, you tell me not to call you Mister, but like, I tell this story all the time, and I never told you, but like, I first started here, and like you said, you know, I'm the first one here, last one to leave, and I was probably here. This was my first ever listing, or it was my second ever listing. but it was a commercial, and I had studied the residential. I knew how to do it, but I get this, guy with a lot of money. He's got a big business. They just upgraded and they moved their business elsewhere, and he's got this big, like 30,000 square foot warehouse he needs to sell. And I'm at the office by myself. I just got him to sign, I just got him to agree to meet with me, and I'm so excited, and like I don't know what to do, don't know how to appraise a property, and I call you, and I tell you, the deal, like it's commercial, this is the address, blah blah blah. I don't know how to do it, and it's like 6, 7 at night, and you're in Covington, and you're like, yeah, I'm about to leave. I'll be back in Lafayette at like 9. Let's do it tomorrow. And I was kind of silent for a second, and then you asked me what, and I said like, I really like to get it done tonight, and you said, all right, I'll be at the office at 9. And you show up at 9, and me and you put up together that BPO, broker, or BOP, or whatever, at like 10 p.m. And then I went over there, and I got the listing, and I sold it. And like, there's not many bosses that are going to do that. Like I said, I call you at 6 p.m. and you show up at 9.
I love the win. You know what I mean? I love to see you guys take it and then go win it and then sell it, be successful. Yeah. That's huge, man.
That was a big deal for me.
Thanks for sharing that.
Having you as an asset, and you, Ethan, and Tyler Albrecht are like my biggest assets to success in this industry, like no doubt.
Well, your determination is it's really exceptional, and I cannot wait to see, what this year is going to end up from January to December. And what's interesting is there's, the last year or so, I've heard more negativity about the market and how hard it is everything that's changed. And you've got somebody who came from college playing baseball and is going to have a better year than most agents who've been in the business for a very long time. And so it just goes to show you that the business is out there, but you've got to be able to show your value. You've got to have a process, you got to have a system, and you've got to stick to it. Anyone and everyone can have a process for a week. It's the people who are really successful are the ones that actually have a process for constant. Now, before we go, because we're way over our time, but I think this is all great information. The new rules. I was listening to. They actually quoted me in a newspaper that they did a statewide article about the NAR settlement and all the changes. And I in that same article, I heard other brokers from across the state say multiple times, and I hear it all the time, like, well, the older agent, the more experienced agents are going to be fine with the changes, but the new agents are going to struggle. And we're seeing the exact opposite. It's the agents who have been doing it one way for so long. It's much more of a struggle than having, if you just started and we tell you the rules and you just do it. How has, obviously that hasn't affected your business at all, but you're following the rules, you're getting the buyer agency agreement, which we had taught you how to do that before this rule even came into place. Let's speak on the NAR settlement a little bit. What kind of objections you're having, if any?
It's this game is constant, like adapting. Like you always have to. I've been working 12 months, and like it's always changes, and you always got to be able to adapt. And honestly, like it's a benefit for people that stick it out and really put the work in. Like 25% less agents are going to close no deals and quit. And so that's more business for me because they don't know how to negotiate for themselves to get paid. But like at the end of the day, like it's upfront. Like the buyer needs to see the value that you bring and understand that you're getting paid. And it really is that easy because I've always done that. So like the only change is like, honestly, it's easier to get paid more because like instead of them offering X amount, you let the buyer know you're getting paid X amount, And so then you get paid X amount instead of what is being offered.
Whatever's being offered on the MLS,
Exactly.
you're not limited to that.
Exactly.
You're limited to whatever your buyers agree to pay. And now that everybody's doing it, it just makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, man. So like, and I've heard this from lots of newer agents on our team. I was talking to somebody today, and they said, "Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the big deal is. Is you told us this is how you have to do it, and that's how we're doing it." You know, but it is more challenging for, people who've been in the business like me for the last 20 years. It could be a big change for some people, and they seem to overcomplicate it. But if your business is about providing value to the customer, your commission has never been the price of your commission is never an issue with if value is there, right?
I want like my buyers and my sellers to know that like if I use Matthew Delcambre as a realtor, I'm going to make more or save more money.
Yeah.
End of story. With 98% of realtors, they're just there to be there. Like they don't know what they're doing. They don't give any benefit, and they get paid, let's say a guy gets paid $5,000 on a transaction, and instead of paying me $7,500, whereas I save him $20,000. So he pays me $2,500 more and saves an extra $20,000 versus using that person that he's paying $5,000 and loses that 20.
Yeah.
It really
We're talking
is
about
substantial.
saving tens of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
and sometimes huge landmines are even worse, getting sued or anything else. Like that's the value.
A lot of agents don't even know how to write a contract. I mean, it's I don't even know how they get a license at this point, to be honest.
So what's in the future for Matthew Delcambre? How many doors do you want to buy in the next 10 years?
I would like to have like 30 to 50 paid off doors, bringing me, like 40 to 50,000 a month, and then I'm sorry, Jim, but I'm probably not going to be selling as much real estate.
Yeah, you're going to be taking it easy now. When are you getting married?
Probably late this year, early next year.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the insane success. I mean, I've called Louisiana realtors. I've called the national realtors trying to find more data about rookies, people who have been in the business for just 1 year. And I can't compare it to anything. I just know I've never seen anyone have this type of success. I've always known it's possible if you talk to 4,670 people, you're likely to set 362 appointments, have 218 of them, and close 62 transactions. And what's great about this is it will get easier. So you're taking the shortcut because doing all the hard work up front, and then now you can really step back, and those conversations will probably cut in half in the next 12 months to get the same results. So super excited, man. I'm grateful to have you on our team. I'm grateful to have you as a friend, and I'm super excited to see what happens. And if there's anybody out there that has data or knows a rookie that has, got into the business and did, close to 50 transactions or 60 transactions in their first year, I would love to know about it. So please comment and send it to us. But man, it's going to be a hell of a ride to see what you can do in the next 12 months, 24 months. And I'm just excited to see and be able to participate and watch you grow and watch you get married, start a family, and hopefully play a lot of golf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for doing this. And anybody out there has any questions, I know Matt, and he has no problem sharing. Whether you may not want to hear what he has to say because he's going to be straightforward and honest with you, but leave your name. If you reach out to Matthew, how can they find you, Matt?
Instagram MJD3131 or cell phone 337-315-1460. Text me, call me if you need a buy or sell a house.
All right, well, that's a wrap, and we'll catch you on the next show.